If you're like me, you'll find starting your career mode as Madrid or Arsenal is fun, but sometimes you want something more challenging. Maybe live start point Southampton is still too easy for you, so today I found the 10 hardest possible starts in any league, in any country, and in any continent, so long as they're on FC25. So to explain how I found these teams, let's quickly look at the 3 easiest teams on the entire game. By comparing every team's overall rating with the league's average, we get a number like this. Then I calculated the standard deviation and found something called a Z number, which gives the biggest difference to league average, taking into account the standard deviation. From the FC25 database, Inter Miami has the biggest Z number, so that means they're the easiest on the game. River Plate and Birmingham City are the next 2 easiest, which proves that this method does work, because Birmingham City are probably the best team in League One's history. But we don't care about easy teams today, we just want the hardest ones on the game. So let's count down the 8 hardest saves on FC25. So, let's start off with a team that you might not even know is playing this high up in their nation's system, Holstein Kiel. They're a team that I associate with the Dritte Liga, which is the 3rd division in Germany, but now play in the top division in the Bundesliga. I'm not sure if they're really this bad in real life, or if EA just hasn't updated them enough times, but if you pick the live start points, they're in with a real shot of qualifying for the relegation playoffs and somehow surviving for a 2nd season. The weirdest part about Kiel is their squad building. They have 28 players, and only 5 of them are under 6 feet tall, or 1m83 if you're European. But they also have 11 players that are capable of playing as centre-back, so I think it could be a really fun save to try and build a defensive team with a focus on long ball and using tall players, but no matter how you play, Holstein Kiel is probably going to be a super tough save for you. In 7th place, we have a 3-way tie, with all 3 teams being in League 2 in England. Morecambe, Newport County and Accrington Stanley are as tough as it gets in the entire UK. They're a full 2.13 overall behind the league's average rating. It doesn't sound like much, but as a percentage, that's actually more than Holstein Kiel are in the Bundesliga, who are a whole 7 points behind the average in Germany. All of these 3 teams have fun challenges too, especially Newport County. If you're unaware, Newport actually once made it to Europe while still playing in League 2, thanks to winning the Welsh Cup. Unfortunately, they're not in that competition, and that competition's not even in FIFA, but as a team from South Wales, they'd still be fun to rebuild from one of the worst leagues to reach the highest rated league on the entire game, the English Premier League. Slightly harder than those 3 in League 2 is the Swedish team Västerås. This makes sense, they actually were relegated and did lose 19 of their 30 games last year, but if you want a tough Scandinavian save, Västerås is the team for you. They have a couple of high potential players, but as a team that was in the 3rd division only 6 years ago, I'm sure they were just happy to be included in FIFA at all. FC Martinguez are the 6th hardest team, and it's a real shame that they don't have live start points in Ligue 2. If they did, you'd be taking over a team that looks dead and buried in January, but then won 4 of the next 6 games, and has a very small chance of actually appearing on FC26. FC Martinguez have less talent than any of the League 2 teams, but no potential either, unlike Västerås, so Martinguez are a crazy bad team, which you're not expecting to find in the French 2nd division. But now, in 5th place, we have 2 of the most surprising teams that I found. I mentioned that the MLS has the easiest team Inter Miami, but on the other end of the scale is CF Montreal and DC United. I think there's always been this little bit of a debate where the MLS teams would belong in the English football pyramid. For a time there was people saying that the best teams could be in the Premier League, or at least the top half of the Championship. But while Miami probably could hold their own in the Premier League, these 2 teams would struggle to win League 2 on FC25. In fact, out of every team on the league, these 2 rebuilds could realistically be 2 of the best saves you can try this year. DC United were one of the MLS's first super teams. They also had Freddie Adu, the original American Wonder Kid, and in terms of trophies won, they're still the joint most successful club in American soccer, yet it's now also the joint worst team in the MLS on FC25. Montreal, on the other hand, is one of 3 Canadian teams in the game. They don't have too much history, and from the look of their squad, it seems like they've focused heavily on high potential youth who don't quite have the overall rating to be playing in the MLS just yet. On their entire roster, there's no superstar in this squad. Instead, young players like Apuku are taking up their foreign players' slots. There's so much room for growth with both of these teams, but I would probably go for Montreal and see if you can rebuild the Canadian national team and get them to win the MLS. So, now we're going into the top 4 hardest saves, and we're actually heading back to Europe. This one is another one that feels strange to mention because back on FIFA 20, Dundalk were one of the best teams in Ireland. On FIFA 21, they were the second best, and then a top 5 team until this year, where they've been overtaken by every other club and have actually in real life been relegated. It's quite hard to say how bad 55 overall is, but I mean, just look at this squad. It is awful. They have a 50 rated centre-back. Their best player is their only player that's rated over 57. It's such a far cry from the team that scored 2 goals against Arsenal less than 5 years ago. But that's what financial difficulties can do to a tiny club. It's such a hard save to try and get Ireland relevant in Europe already, but doing it with Dundalk rather than someone like Shamrock Rovers would be an extra layer of fun. I think this save is definitely worth giving a try if you're not interested in any of the other ones that I'm going to talk about today. I've got to say though, out of all of the teams in this list, Cordoba CF seems to be the most underrated. They're the 3rd hardest save on FC25. They've got an average overall of just 65 in the Spanish 2nd division, but in real life, they're 9th out of 20 teams. How can EA really think that they're worse than teams like Tenerife, who are 4 overall higher in the game, but have 20 less points from the same 28 games they've played in real life? I don't know if the club is just so underrated that EA have just forgotten to update them, but they have 2 players that are rated over 67, which is about the lowest level that a starting player in La Liga 2 should be. It's a fun challenge to try and overachieve as much as they have done in real life, but you better do it soon, because I've got a feeling these guys aren't going to get relegated, but instead are going to get updated to be 70 rated by the end of July. Over in Asia, I also have no idea how Hangzhou Mighty Lions are still in the game. They've been the worst team in China, the worst team in Asia, and also the worst team in the entire game several times since FIFA 20. Back then, they were still called Shiji Azhuang Everbright, but now the Chinese FA has forced all teams to remove industry names from clubs, but unfortunately, didn't also force these guys to build a competitive team. As the 2nd hardest starting position, Hangzhou are the only team in the game to have 4 players rated 47 overall, and that's for good reason. In real life, they've officially been declared bankrupt and had to release their entire squad, but with a 56 rated team, the next worst squad in the league is 62. Rebuilding to not finish last is going to be hard, but to make things even worse, they have barely any budget. Getting these guys to the Asian Champions League final is probably the hardest save in the game. I say that because to finalise our list, we're also going to look at the hardest possible save, which rather disappointingly is not only a tie, but is also 2 B teams in the 3rd division of Germany. Now, you know I like realism on this channel, but VfB Stuttgart 2 and Hannover 96 2 aren't rated as low as Hangzhou, but are in a tougher league, making them officially the hardest save in the game. But because they're a B team, in real life they're not actually able to get promoted. So if you like playing realistic, then you're probably not going to be that interested in using these guys unless you're going to resign as soon as you get near the playoff places. There's nothing you can really do with these in a realistic save, but if you want one of the hardest saves, see if you can overtake Stuttgart 1 or Hannover 1 while using one of their B teams. I know people had a lot of fun doing that with Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich B teams in the past, and maybe this could be the save that you really want to try. But if I had to recommend any of them, I would definitely go for either Hangzhou or Dundalk, because they seem to be the 2 best saves in Europe and in Asia. But hopefully, that's answered your question, if you had it, of what is the hardest career mode starting point in the entire game. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, and sorry for the mic quality in this video. I actually had to record this one on my phone rather than my normal microphone, but we'll be back to normal for the next video, which will be coming out very soon, so hopefully you can watch that and you'll subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching. Really do appreciate it. I'll see you soon. Cheers and goodbye.